Hey, Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more relationship stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider, like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from Soft Korea 8688 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and says, Am I the arsehole for saying my in-laws treat me like a living maid, and I'm wanting to move out? I, female 26, and husband, male 27, live with his parents. His father had some health issues and needed some care, and we agreed to move in and help out. Father-in-law is generally doing better now, but there's still a few things he can't do that my husband does now instead. We've discussed moving out. I want to, but my in-laws are very resistant to the idea, thinking that there's plenty of room here and they don't know what they'd do without us, etc. While we don't pay his parents to live here, their decision, we pay for groceries for everyone and several household bills, electricity, internet, TV packages, etc. The house is mortgage-free. I also do all the household cleaning and cooking. I arrange and take all their pets to their veterinary appointments too. I do work from home, so this is easier for me, and as I'm able to be flexible. We also pay half of any house modifications and upgrades, as it'll be your house one day. Recently, I've begun to feel resentful of the fact that once they are all done with work, they can come home and relax, whereas I finish work and have to cook and clean and have no help. On the weekends, I spend half of the day cleaning the house while they do what they want. It all came to a head last week. I was really unwell. I felt the worst I've ever felt and wanted nothing more than to sleep. However, once it got around to dinner time, I was awoken by my mother-in-law to ask when I was getting up to make dinner. I didn't want to cause an argument, so I just got up and made dinner for them. But as I was in the kitchen struggling not to pass out, the three of them sat watching a movie, waiting for me to bring in their food. I didn't say anything at first. I waited until my husband and I were alone to bring up my concerns with the lack of help. My husband apologized and offered to help more, which I accepted. But the next day was an exact repeat. I had to drag myself out of bed to cook, and once I bring in their food, my mother-in-law says, "Oh, you look truly awful." Or you. "Oh, by the way, later, would you mind giving everywhere an extra clean? I don't want to get whatever you have." At which point I accused them of treating me like a living maid and not caring about me outside of the services I provide for them. I pointed out that I wouldn't be in the communal areas if I hadn't been dragged out to cook, and they could have handled one meal themselves. My husband sat there in silence. He thinks I should have brought it up more carefully, at a time when I wasn't so emotional. I agree that I probably should have, but I was sick, stressed. I want to move out, but husband and in-laws are still against it. Nothing has changed of what they expect from me. I got no apology, just silent treatment from mother-in-law for a couple of days. So, am I the arsehole? Hope you had some extra information and says thank you for all the comments. This is my first post, so I'm not sure if this is the best way to address some of the questions, but here we go. It didn't start off with me doing everything. Before we moved in with my in-laws, my husband and I split everything equally, and that worked great. Once we moved here, I picked up a bunch of the household chores because I work from home and I'm here. It just made sense. Slowly over time, there's just been things added here and there, that has snowballed into the current situation. I have stood up for myself a few times, but it's an incredibly difficult situation. I'm very aware this is not my house, they're not my parents, and the things I would say to my own parents are not the same I feel I could say to his. I moved across the country before we got married. None of my friends are here. Most of my closest friends are my husband's friends' wives, etc. I don't have any family nearby. I've always felt as though if I pushed too hard, it would be everyone against me. And I didn't realize before now how toxic of an environment that is. Inheritance of the house isn't something I want or need. This was never supposed to be a long-term thing, and I guess I've just felt pressure to contribute to certain things involving the house because we do live here, and my husband will get the house one day. He's an only child. Overall, it's all been very eye-opening to realize maybe I'm not being as silly as I'm often made to think. All the little things spiral into one big mess, and my husband should be sticking up for me, not contributing to the problem. I've tried talking to him about things several times, and he'll be helpful for a couple of days before resorting back to mummy-settled prince. I know I've been needing to get out for a while. I think this is just the push I needed to make such a massive life decision. Thanks, Reddit. And someone asked Safety, they said, what exactly is it that your husband does that your father-in-law can't do? AP says, at this point, I'd say he's recovered enough that he should be able to do most things. But it's mostly walking his dogs, anything involving any sort of lifting. Nothing that couldn't be done by outside sources if we were to leave. Now, you've already acknowledged in your post that you get a husband problem. He's not backing you up. He sat there in silence when these people got you up while you was ill to make them dinner. He sat there while she said, "Oh, can you give the place an extra clean because he doesn't want your germs all over the place." I'll be out of that place ASAP. And you're clearly being taken major advantage of here. That none of this is right anyway, but the fact that they're not even thankful in the slightest bit about any of this, the amount you're doing, you're paying as well, paying for the groceries and electric, internet, TV packages, all this sort of stuff. And they're not even thankful for it. Not that that would make it okay, but this is definitely a situation, say, look, I'm definitely getting out of here because, this isn't the way that I would want to be living. And the fact that you've got no support around you as well, and you're worried to talk to other people about it, because you think that they might gang up on you, is a real concern in itself. But in the comments, Cake Eating Rabbit says, "Not the arsehole, but take a good look at your husband. He knew you were sick. You were too, and he just let you suffer. Even with you telling him, you thought you would just keep serving him. Even if you weren't sick, this arrangement is highly unfair to you. Your husband saves money and doesn't need to lift a finger, and your in-laws save money and don't have to lift a finger. Children living with their parents have chores. These adults are so lazy. I'm angry right now. You deserve so much better." This may say as "not the arsehole." Also, get out now, with or without your husband. Nothing will change because everyone except you is fine with the situation. No, your husband doesn't care because if he did, you would have done something about it. Pack your bags and leave. Roxy Walker says, "So you got married and instead of starting the family of your own, you get to take care of your husband's parents. The exploitation here is outrageous. It was almost like you've been set up by all of them because you have to seriously doubt your husband would have stepped up to do everything that's being done if you weren't part of the equation by choice, all of which only benefits his parents. Agreeing to move in was your first mistake, but since that's already done and over with, staying in this situation will be your second mistake. Will have far broader consequences for everything pertaining to your marriage. You need to get your own family started. Staying in the situation you are in will surely end your marriage because eventually you'll be tired of being the hired help and not a wife with a home. Privacy and money saved up, not the arsehole." G1 Gestalt says, "I think you obviously know you're not the arsehole. The question is, what do you do about it? Half the problem, at least half, is actually your husband. If I were you, which I realize I'm not, I'd basically tell him that unless this slave treatment of you stops, you'll move out on your own. After all, what makes you think that this is going to stop after in-laws are gone, in another decade or so? Your in-laws' eyes have a feeling that there's no way that you're going to come out the good guy. You're putting your foot down in their house, and they already seem like completely entitled hosts. This is a make-or-break situation. If your husband switches to Team You, will you get your own place and go into couples counseling, which may be a good idea anyway. On the back of that as well, they keep tempting you with a house. This house might be yours one day kind of thing. Whether that's to try and keep you in this situation or not. How long is someday anyway? I know there's health issues involved here, but it doesn't exactly say what health issues they are. We could be talking years down the road, and even with maybe deteriorating health, so the care becomes even more. I'm likely OP will be expected to take on that as well. It just sounds like a dire situation. But OP did come in with an update, so let's find out what happened next. This update came 3 months later, and OP says, "I'm not really sure how best to go about updating, but I guess here is as good as any. Firstly, thank you to everyone that reached out. I haven't been able to get back to everyone, but I did read every message. Now for the part you all want. After making this post, I started putting my wages into my own bank account. I removed all of my savings from our joint account and transferred everything from my own safety account, just in case. This turned out to be the best decision because I found out I was pregnant roughly 2 weeks after this post. I've been told at 15 that due to some medical conditions, I'd never be able to get pregnant naturally, so it was a complete shock. Once I had a scan to check everything was okay, thankfully it was, we told my in-laws, and this is what gave me the final shove I needed. Immediately, names were being thrown around, and my mother-in-law started talking about reducing her hours to part-time/early retirement so she could be around to raise the baby. This rubbed me completely the wrong way. I didn't want anyone else raising my baby. Colors for the nursery and themes, etc. will all being discussed constantly, but never with me or my opinions being taken into consideration. And within a week, I felt as though I was just an incubator. The final straw happened when myself, my husband's cousin, female 29, and mother-in-law went shopping. I've been looking at different kind of breast pumps before being told that I would be bottle feeding so everyone could help out. I didn't want to cause a scene in the middle of the shop, so I moved on to outfits. Everything I picked up or looked at was either the wrong color or style or something. I picked out one outfit, which would be my first baby purchase. Mother-in-law snatched it out of my hands before I could pay, telling me that it was the wrong sort of outfit. wasn't gender neutral enough, and if the baby is a boy, like we're hoping, then it's far too feminine. I didn't need to be told what I could and couldn't dress my own child in, nor did I appreciate the suggestion that they would all prefer a boy, let alone being told how I'd be feeding my child. So I left. I tried talking to my husband on 3 separate occasions and he either made excuses or blew me off entirely. Couldn't handle it anymore. I packed my bags and went to stay with my sister for a week. My husband called me once and asked me to go home. Once. I made it clear I wouldn't be returning to live in their house, that I would raise the baby on my own if he didn't want to leave, but I would not allow my child to be raised in such a toxic environment. As a big surprise to no one, he stayed put. After that, I got spammed with texts in the family group chat, but I left and deleted them all. I started the divorce process and hopefully, as I say, every disgusting message from either my ex or his family about both myself and my baby, they won't get any form of custody. Although since I announced the gender, they've all gone quiet silent. I have now a small 3-bedroom house. I'm only renting for now, while I wait for their divorce to finalize, but it's plenty big enough for the 2 of us. My daughter will grow up surrounded by my family and plenty of cousins to play with. Our house is pretty bare at the minute, as I only got the keys a couple of days ago, but I have time before she gets here to make sure everything is ready. Thank you again for all your kind words. The situation didn't play out how I'd hoped, but I can't help feeling like it's for the best. And of course, this isn't an ideal situation for OP. It is absolutely heartbreaking that they're having to go through divorce. I'd imagine, the thought of raising your child by yourself is quite a scary thing. But at the same time, I think you're doing the best in a really difficult situation, that you stood up for yourself and for your, which I'm assuming is a daughter, the way they went silent. You're leaning on people around you like your sister and your family as support systems, which, is a great thing. A whole situation when you was in the shots was incredibly infuriating. This person snatching clothes at your hand and, treating you, like you said, it's like an incubator. I can't imagine what would have been like if you continued to stay in that situation. You've had no say, you've had no support, and it just sounded incredibly bleak. But well done for you, OP, for standing up for yourself, like I said, for your child as well. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Put yourself in OP's shoes. How would you feel? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story does come with an update as well from the Am I the A-hole subreddit from Girlfriend License Thrower. Says, am I the asshole for not saving my girlfriend's driving license and refusing to drive her to and from work? My 28 male girlfriend, 26 female, is always late. Always. No matter if it's 5 minutes up the road or catching a play. Before we get into it, no, she isn't on the autism spectrum and she doesn't have ADHD or time blindness. She just dawdles all the time. She snoozes her alarm at least 3 times every morning and lays there going for her social media. Eventually, she gets up and takes a long-ass shower, dresses, which takes her forever, and she usually sits wrapped in a towel on her phone and lingers over her coffee. 9 times out of 10, she's running late for work and ends up speeding to make it on time. Naturally, she's gotten a number of speeding tickets. I've tried to help her, e.g. putting her phone, but she can't reach it from bed, so she has to get up to snooze it. But she literally just grabs it and goes back to bed. You try to get her to move her ass and she just digs her heels in and takes even longer. A response to people calling out the lateness is better late than dead on time. Anyway, again, she was running even later than normal for work and really had to speed to make it. A week goes by and sure enough, massive speeding fine in the mail. She now has to hand in her driver's license because she's got so many e-merit points. She'll be without one for 6 months. Instead of just dealing with it, she tells me, I need you to cop this one and say you were driving so I don't lose my license. And of course, I refused, telling her she needs to live with the consequences of her actions and maybe she should stop speeding and wake up earlier. This argument went on for a few days until she finally conceded and proceeds to tell me, well, you'll have to drive me to and from work until I get my license back. And I tell her I won't be doing that. Her work is literally in another direction than my work is from home, and doing so would add another 2 hours of driving per day. She says it shouldn't matter as my work has flexible hours, but I stood my ground and refused, and said she can take public transport. It's literally a bus stop 2 minutes walk from my house, and the bus stop's maybe 5 minutes walk from her work, and is quite regular. She says she hates public transport and refuses to ride it. I said then is Uber for her. We'll organize a carpool, but bottom line is not my responsibility. She called me an asshole and has given me this silent treatment. Said a decent boyfriend would go to those lengths for her, and that is only 6 months. So, Am I an asshole for not saving her license and refusing to drive her to and from work for 6 months? Edits, we live in Brisbane, Australia, for those wondering. Wow, she sounds extremely annoying, but this is just simply consequences of your own actions. And, she's also putting other people in danger on the road at the same time by being late and then asks you to, take legal consequences for it as well. Absolutely not the arsehole. Take public transport. Doesn't even sound sorry about any of this either. Also tried manipulating you with a decent boyfriend would go to those links for her. But your laundry basket says not the arsehole, but why are you even with this girl? Not only is she refusing to improve herself, but she has also attempted to drag you onto a mess that has legal consequences. Just even blaming you for refusing to take responsibility of her own problem, as she seemed actively avoiding to work on. Bastic says not the arsehole. She doesn't give a shit about other people's time. She doesn't give a shit about the safety of others on the road. She doesn't give a shit about your driving record if you cop the points. I could go on. She clearly doesn't care about anyone but herself, so why are you with her? Gadget Girl says not the arsehole. Good for you for standing your ground. She made the wrong choices and refused to change her problematic behavior, despite many warnings, because she just didn't want to make the effort or do things differently. The choice to speed repeatedly as a solution is 100% on her. Losing your license is supposed to be a punishment for her, not you. Old firm and continue to push back against the guilt and manipulation. She sounds a bit entitled, and I have a feeling you're in for a fair amount of drama and whining while she adjusts. Matt says not the arsehole. You are doing what any significant other who cares deeply would do, and taking a pretty hard road to do it. We're trying to address the root cause of the issue. I was like you were taking steps to avoid enabling her, which would probably make things worse, and hoping that this wake-up call will have an effect. Just worried about the current consequences and probably getting increasingly frustrated by the extra obstacles being added. You are worried about future potential consequences for her that could be far, far worse. Maybe relieved it's only this. Same situation with two very different perspectives. I can empathize with a lot of what you described as her behavior. Take a look at Consolations in Philosophy by Alain de Botton. The chapter on Seneca frustration expectations helped a lot, and the book as a whole was an all-around good read. Maybe it will help here too. Good luck. The Okie does give us a couple of little updates the next day and says, wow, I wasn't expecting such a response and definitely not everyone being on my side. She told me all her friends think I'm the asshole, which is a big part of why I came here in the first place. After seeing the responses here, I messaged a few of them, and the ones she actually did contact said not the asshole. As for why I'm still with her, I'm starting to question that myself. I've not been really happy with her the last few months, and this is starting to make me question the entire relationship. The day after that, Oki says, but today I asked her she look at the train and bus timetables and she hit me with, paraphrasing, oh my god, you seriously aren't going to help me. You really expect me to catch public transport, blah blah blah. Reflecting on this, some past behavior and her attitude towards the whole thing, I'm going to break up with her. Thank you everyone for your help. I gotta say, I couldn't see it going any other way in the end on this story. There were the chance of them reconciling, but her whole attitude towards the whole thing, Oki explained, just put me on edge the whole time. I just couldn't look past that. And part of me was thinking, how is she earning any money with the amount of tickets she's getting? I mean, you get fined and all sorts in the UK. I'm sure that's elsewhere as well, in Australia. And I was wondering how it's sort of affecting them financially as a couple, but I'm not sure if they was at that point in their relationship. I mean, they was only there together for 6 months, I think it said. So, but wow, what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so, so much for being involved. Truly is absolutely amazing. Hopefully, I will see you in the next one. Take care. Much love.